Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. I'm Paul Dottino. Here's Matt Sitek. And I don't know what I'm more excited about, folks. Is it the Fan Fest tonight with the top 100 players of all time, the New York Football Giants, or is it Sunday's opening day against the Minnesota Vikings? I can't pick one. I'm just so pumped.
Yeah, why can't it be both?
I like that idea. I'm pumped for both. Are you guys pumped for both? 201-939-4513 is our phone number here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. And remember, if you don't catch the show live, you can always get it as part of the archive on giants.com/podcasts and all your favorite podcast platforms and networks everywhere. So I don't know what we should start with. I think we'll probably start with the fact that tonight the Fan Fest is sold out. Tickets were available online for a couple of weeks now. And folks, if you didn't get in, I apologize. I can't wait to see the drone show. I've heard so much about it. I was allowed to get a preview, but I didn't take it. Matt, I did not want to get the preview.
Why not? Oh, you wanted to be surprised.
I wanted to be surprised, and
Okay.
I'd like to enjoy it when it's live. Because I think that's going to be more impressive. Okay? So that's first. Fireworks, of course, that's cool. But the legends and the panel, I just got done talking to Bob Popper about the different legends who are going to be on the field, on the stage, and they're going to have different sections based on the different eras of Giants football who are going to talk to the fans and reminisce about some of the great moments in Giants history. Tonight, John and I are also going to be in the Legacy Club during the reception, and we are going to be videotaping a slew of Giants huddles that we're going to sprinkle throughout the course of the season. So we invite you to check those things out as we spread them out during the year. But it's just a who's who. And I think, Matt, to be honest, you know, there's only 4 teams in NFL history now that the Giants have joined the 100 Club. Okay? It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Let's not kid ourselves. I got people saying, well, you know, we're not going to be around for 200. Now I'm going to try. I don't know if I can make it, but I'm going to try. This is really, really cool.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I feel like this is like sort of the culmination of all the various different Giants 100 events, celebrations, things that, you know, we've kind of unveiled throughout the year. I mean, this whole 100 season has been years in the making. And obviously, you know, 100 seasons, so 99 years ago, the Giants' first season. But just all of these celebrations that are surrounding this 100th season, I can tell you from working upstairs, they've been in the works for years now.
Yep.
At least 2 years. Some of these events and, you know, various promotional marketing events and items and things. There's been so much hard work put into this from so many different people in this building. It's awesome to see it finally all coming together. Tonight, there's the Giants 5K tomorrow, and then finally, we get to kick off the 100th season on Sunday with even more 100 season celebrations and festivities on Sunday.
All right, so before we get to that, we should remind you about the Giants Foundation is hosting the 5K race and kids run. You just mentioned that a second ago, Matt. It's presented by Quest. It's coming up tomorrow, 9 a.m., at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds to benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants receive a commemorative T-shirt, and then afterwards you can get to the appearances by the Giants legends, a live DJ also. Register now at giants.com/5K. I don't know how many spots are available, so I invite you to go to the website, check it out, and if there's any empty slots, by all means, sign up. It's supposed to be a good day.
Yeah.
Weather's good.
And there are still spots open. So you can still get into the 5K if you would like to come join tomorrow.
And it's a fun thing to do, and you get some exercise at the same time. Okay, come on, who could beat that? In any event.
And you get to finish, the 5K finishes in the end zone at MetLife.
Does it?
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Oh, very nice. Very nice, but now, I don't know, is there like an unofficial award for the most creative dance in the end zone?
Yeah, you can be the judge of that.
I don't think so.
Break out the marinara.
There you go, Pearson. 201-939-4513 is our phone number. Let's take a couple of quick minutes to talk about this Giants-Vikings game right before we get to the phone calls, because I know we've already got a few people on hold, and I do want to get to you in just a second, but it does bear mentioning Today, Giants are having their final regular practice. They'll have a walkthrough tomorrow in preparation for Sunday's 1 o'clock game here at MetLife. Brian Daboll telling everybody earlier today the only update injury-wise had to do with Drew Lock. He was going to be practicing today, and he would not rule him out as being the number 2 quarterback for Sunday's kickoff. Remember, you can designate a third quarterback from your 53, and he said, look, we're going to have practice. We're going to see how Drew looks, and then we'll figure it out tonight. And that was the only lineup conversation that Daboll was interested in having. He did not discuss anything else about the CB2. He said that's going to be decided later on tonight. Come on, did that surprise you?
No, not even in the slightest.
Did not discuss the linebackers. None of that stuff. The kickoff returners, none of that stuff was discussed. Just Drew Lock's potential status. So that's the only injury update that we have at practice as of this morning.
Yes, there are 3, in addition to Locke, there are 3 other players that have been listed on the injury report.
Correct.
Since Wednesday. That's Dane Belton, Micah McFadden, and Gunner. And in addition to Locke, all 4 of them have been limited on Wednesday and Thursday. We'll find out, how much they participated in practice in a couple of hours, and then their game designations.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would think that at least a few of these players will be listed as questionable, if not all 4 of them. But we will find out one way or the other in a couple hours.
I will say this. Olszewski is one tough you-know-what. I can't see him missing the opening day's game.
Yeah, me neither.
I can't.
Unless he's we're not out there at practice anymore. The season rules, so we only get a very short glimpse.
During the short media session of practice, he was fielding kicks.
Yeah,
which was the open portion that we're allowed to see.
We just don't know once the media clears.
Right.
We don't know how much any of these guys are participating.
Well, it's because we're in here. The Vikings had a couple of guys listed on their injury report this week. Also on the offense, both at the same position, and one of them is very important to what they do.
Yes, so it's I think the guys listed as their number 2 and number 3 wide receivers. Mm-hmm. Jordan Addison is the guy that you're referring to, who obviously had a very strong rookie season last year, had 10 touchdowns, over 900 yards, I think over 70 receptions, really filled in as the number 1 receiver for the Vikings once Justin Jefferson missed time with that hamstring injury, and then later with the chest injury. And then Jalen Naylor, who was their number 3 receiver. The 2 of them are both dealing with ankle injuries. They've both been limited Wednesday and Thursday, similar to the Giants players. We'll have to see. It seems like from the things that I've seen on Twitter from Vikings beat reporters of what the Vikings have been saying, I'd be surprised if Addison is not going. If he doesn't play on Sunday, I think he's going to go. And same for Naylor.
It does seem that way.
Yeah, you never know.
And again, it's opening day, which for a lot of guys, that's almost as exciting as a playoff game. I mean, if you can go, you go. Yeah. I mean, you'll push it. You'll push it for opening day if you can.
Yeah, and it was kind of news when Addison went down with an injury a couple weeks ago, and it's at first it sounded like it could have been serious. He wasn't doing anything at training camp, but as we've come to learn, teams don't have to disclose how actually significant an injury is when it occurs during the summer.
Right.
So you have no idea. So he got back on the practice field last week, Jordan Addison. So all signs seem to be pointing towards him suiting up on Sunday.
Now, on the other hand, there is a very, very important member of that offense who we know is not playing because he's on PUP, TJ Hawkinson. Remember, at the end of last season, I believe it was week 16, he tore his ACL. He is on the PUP list, the PUP list. Cannot play for the first 4 games, minimum. That is a very, very big deal.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. I mean, Hawkinson, especially with Justin Jefferson's injury last year, he really stepped up as the number 1 target in the passing game for Kirk. Kirk Cousins went down too. For whoever was quarterback, whether it was Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, Jaron Hole.
Yeah, that's true.
They had an open rotation of quarterbacks. But the 2 years ago when the Giants played the Vikings twice, TJ Hawkinson kind of killed them both games. In the Christmas Eve game, he had 13 receptions, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
He's a heck of a player.
And then in the wild card game, 10 catches for 129 yards.
He was virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, so him not being there, that is a big loss for the Vikings. It sounds like they're going to be without him for the thing I actually saw yesterday was that they're targeting week 7 because they have a week 6 bye. But frankly, that doesn't matter for the Giants because we only play them week 1. And then
it does not.
The only time we would play them again this year is perhaps in the playoffs if they both make it. So TJ Hockenson will not be there. Filling in at tight end position, they have Johnny Munt and Josh Oliver, who they are guys.
They are not on the level of Hockenson.
No, they are not. Although Johnny Munt did, when Hockenson went down last year, he did fill in, and played pretty solid, but he's not even close to the same type of player that a healthy TJ Hockenson is.
In fact, I want to say here, let me just look at that depth chart. Yeah, Oliver, I want to say Oliver caught like 24 balls last year. And of the 3 tight ends on their active roster going into Sunday, he is their most accomplished receiver. But again, Hawkinson's on a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's frankly not even close. But Hockenson tore his ACL, what was it, week 16?
Yeah, I think it was 16.
So then in week 17, Munt had 4 receptions, 39 yards and a touchdown. And then in the season finale, 5 receptions for 58 yards. So he did step in as, I guess, the pass-catching tight end. But Oliver wasn't there. Oliver, I believe, was with the Ravens last year.
Was he with the Ravens last year or was it the year before? I'm not sure.
No, he was with the Vikings.
I thought he was because he caught like 2,000 passes.
So Munt did step up as, the pass-catching tight end once TJ Hockenson went down.
In any event, that is a big loss for the Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, depending upon how you view Sam Darnold, that may be a loss, too. Coming off of Kirk Cousins, who signed a free agent deal with the Atlanta Falcons, Sam Darnold, the former Jet, is now going to be back at MetLife Stadium starting against the Giants. Look, I've never been a Darnold guy. He has tremendous turnover issues. For everybody who tried to rip Daniel Jones earlier in his career for turnover problems, well, Sam Darnold is Mr. Turnover. He really is. And his numbers are ridiculous in terms of interceptions thrown and fumbles. He is constantly giving the ball away. So that certainly bodes well for the Giants. Adam Jones is now their key running back.
Aaron,
the former Packer.
Adam Jones was the former Adam Pac-Man Jones.
Yes, that is correct. The former Packer, who has gone through a lot of injuries in his career. He is now the lead running back in Minnesota. He was signed during the offseason as well. So that's kind of like the big names to look for, skill positions for the Vikes. On the other side of the ball, well, they drafted Turner from Alabama with the 17th pick. He's an edge rusher. Okay, how much can you expect out of him out of the gate? Well, they're going to use him in passing situations, that's for sure. But he's a rookie. It's his first NFL game. I got a hunch that Andrew Thomas is going to be okay against him. I think he'll be able to neutralize him. Then you've got Greenard, who's come over from Houston, who is, a double-digit sack guy. He's the other fellow who they're going to rely on because Hunter and Woolham are both gone. They're top 2 sack guys from last year. So they've had to kind of reconstitute a bit. They signed Gilmore to be in the secondary because their secondary was a mess. And those are some of the guys you'll be looking for on Sunday.
Yeah. So first with the offense, John and I went into detail about Sam Darnold yesterday, so we don't need to go into that again.
He's holding on to Darnold. He's holding on. We all get guys out of the draft that we really like and we kind of are reluctant to give up on. He's holding on to Darnold. God knows why, but he is.
He is, and honestly, I still don't know how good of a quarterback Sam Darnold is. I'm not here saying that he is a good quarterback, but I do think that him being on this Vikings team now with Kevin O'Connell as his head coach and offensive play caller is by far and away the best situation he has been in as a starting quarterback, because he was with the 49ers last year, but as the backup. And just as I said yesterday, Kyle Shanahan and Kevin O'Connell's offenses are pretty similar. They come from the same coaching tree. So
yes.
So it's technically year 1 in Kevin O'Connell's system, but he has a lot of familiarity with it because it's similar to Kyle Shanahan's. And so I do think Sam Darnold is going to be a solid quarterback. I don't think he's going to be great. I don't think he's going to be awful either, though. I think he's going to be a solid starting quarterback that will be capable of getting the ball into his very talented group of playmakers' hands. And that's it. He's going to have turnovers for sure. But I do think that Kevin O'Connell is going to sort of simplify the offense for Sam Darnold and just set it up where he only has to make easy throws to Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones out of the backfield. And I think he's going to be set up for success, whether he takes advantage of it and actually, succeeds and takes that next step as a quarterback that everyone's been waiting for years now. That remains to be seen.
Yeah, if they do that, it goes against Connell's blood because his blood says throw it deep.
Oh, they will definitely take some deep shots.
They are a deep throwing team. That is their primary attack in the passing game. They want to throw it downfield. Sam Darnold has been one of the worst downfield throwers in the NFL since he got into this league.
Has he ever gotten to throw to a receiver like Justin Jefferson?
Now, the counter to that is Jefferson, Addison, really good players, okay, but they can't help his inaccuracies or when he throws a ball to the guy in the other uniform. They can't help him with that.
I don't know. I saw Justin Jefferson make some catches over the last couple of years that Kirk Cousins threw that looked like it was going right into the defender's hands.
The quote 50-50 balls. I get it. I'm just not a Darnold guy, folks. And I think the best way for them to move the ball downfield, if I were in charge of the Vikings offense, I would use what I think the Giants are going to use. A lot of yak yardage passes. That's what I would do. Because he's got receivers who can do big-time things with the football. And I don't want Darnold throwing the ball too many times and throwing it too many times downfield because he will basically commit offensive suicide. So to get him out of that, I would do a lot of quick throws, a lot of short throws, and let my receivers do their magic with their elusiveness. That's what I would do if I was Minnesota. But that is not what O'Connell has done in the first 2 years with Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, even you look at the last month of last year when Nick Mullins took over as the full-time starter, I think it was at least the last 4 games, and had Justin Jefferson out there with him healthy. Justin Jefferson went off in those last 4 games. 30 receptions, 476 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the final 4 weeks with Nick Mullins under center. You can say that Sam Darnold is not a good quarterback. He's better than Nick Mullins.
That's true.
So that's
at least I think that's true.
Just all I'm saying is I don't think Sam Darnold should be just completely written off. I think he can still be a solid quarterback in the NFL if he's put in the right system, which I think he is with Kevin O'Connell. But that's more Sam Darnold talk than we needed to get into, honestly.
I will say this. He's got Darisaw at left tackle, who is a really solid left tackle.
And Brian O'Neill at right tackle.
O'Neill's on the right side, not nearly as accomplished as Darisaw. Not even close. In fact, O'Neill's the weak link.
Solid tackle.
He's the weak link between the two, though.
Well, yeah, because Christian Darisaw is a great left tackle.
He's terrific.
But compare the two, yes, he's the weak link. But generally speaking, he's a solid right tackle.
Now, Darisaw is going to wind up playing against Burns, in all honesty. We would think that's the way it's going to line up. And Thibodeau is going to be on the other side. In all likelihood, I would think. Although the Giants flop them a lot. We saw them in practice constantly flop guys. So it's hard to say where they're going to be. But if you want to look for the target for the edge rush, look at O'Neill. Okay, he gave up a handful of sacks last year. Also got called for the most penalties on the Vikings team last season. 5 holding penalties. He drew 7 flags on the season. 5 holding penalties. Okay, he is the guy you want to attack.
Yeah, that's like saying opposing defenses should attack Jermaine Illuminor compared to Andrew Thomas, because Andrew Thomas is an all-pro.
No question.
But Jermaine Illuminor, we still expect him to be solid this year.
Hope so.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's a similar situation in Minnesota. It's not like Brian O'Neill is some nobody who's awful.
He's not a journeyman, but I don't think he's as good as you think he is.
All right,
anyway,
that's fair.
201-939-4513.
I do really, before we get to the call, just want to touch on Aaron Jones really quick, because we didn't really talk about him. And so he was the veteran addition that they brought in free agency
to replace. Packer fans are mad
to replace.
He betrayed them and went to the Vikings.
Alexander Madison left.
Yes.
After Dalvin Cook left the year before.
Madison didn't do much last year.
No, he really did not. And, you did mention Aaron Jones was injured a lot last year, which he was. He had I think it was a hamstring injury that held him out for a good chunk of the season. Then he was slow when he got back. But his last 5 games, including the 2 playoff games for the Packers, he had over 100 yards on the ground in all 5 of them. And in all 5 of those games averaged more than 5 yards per carry. And in 3 of those games averaged 6 or more yards per carry. So right now, heading into week 1, obviously, as this goes for every player in the NFL, just about every player, this is the healthiest that Aaron Jones has been in a while and will be probably all season. So while he does definitely have those injury concerns, I think that's a little bit for down the road. Right now, he's a healthy Aaron Jones, and he's still a very dangerous running back that the Giants are going to have to keep a close eye on
He's
Sunday.
a very efficient back and has been productive over the course of his time. And again, the Packers fans were really unhappy when he left. They were not pleased.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what happened with Giants fans when Saquon went to the Eagles.
Well, he's not Saquon Barkley, but...
No, but it's still going to one of your arch rivals.
It was within the division, and that's what really ticked them off. I have a friend who is like a diehard Packers fan and goes to a lot of games. Not happy at all. All right, to the lines. We go to Scott, New Mexico. You're first up on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
What's up?
Hey, Scott.
I have one personal comment I want to make, and then I'll get to my main points. This thing with Daniel Jones and the constant bashing by some of the callers. I respect everybody who's calling in, but nobody has had the kind of, except maybe for David Carr, has had the kind of offensive lines that Daniel Jones has had to deal with. He's the prototypical quarterback at 6'5", about 240. Runs like a gazelle, not terribly elusive, but is fast. And if the offensive line is what they say is, he's going to have a great year. I just don't understand how a guy like that is constantly bashed. I know Charlie did it yesterday. For some reason, I don't even understand. But you can't separate components. In other words, a quarterback relies on other things besides his own ability. And I'll give you a good example. There's a Hall of Fame quarterback. You both know Terry Bradshaw. And Terry Bradshaw obviously had great receivers, had great running backs. They had the steel curtain. But it would surprise everybody to learn that Terry had 212 career passing touchdowns, but almost as many interceptions, 199. And I think in 3 seasons he had more interceptions than he had touchdowns. But he's regarded in a totally different way, and I just don't understand the logic behind it, because it makes me mad when I hear it. And this is not a vacuum. It's team efforts that win football games, not just relying on the quarterback.
Scott, how many times have you heard me talk about the spider web, right? I talk about it all the time, the spider web. Everything is attached, or peeling back the layers of the onion. It is so shallow for people just to, that's it. The quarterback's in a vacuum. He's terrible. He's
Right.
He's miserable. Blah, 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 blah. It's absurd. It's absurd.
Right.
Pro football is
I
a
agree.
spider web. Every strand impacts another strand. That's
Correct.
why this game is the greatest game in the world.
Right. In regards to Sam Darnold, I can't believe anybody has any confidence in him. 38 fumbles and 56 interceptions in 5 years. I think the only reason maybe somebody's holding out in regards to Sam.
I think that's in like 66 games, too, 66 career appearances. The numbers are ridiculously embarrassing for him.
I have a question for both of you, though. Both of you are literally just stopped talking about
the
Daniel
spiderweb.
Jones and the spiderweb around him. What teams was Sam Darnold on? The Jets when they were awful, and the Carolina Panthers when they were awful?
Okay.
How is it that different?
Except if you do look at the physical tools of Sam Darnold, he does not have the tools of Daniel Jones.
The tools
Right.
that
And he
made him the
couldn't-
number
he couldn't,
3 pick
Matt,
in the
he couldn't
draft.
escape
By
the
somebody
blitz
very
at all.
foolish. He never should have been picked
But
there.
Right.
everyone
Well,
considered
anyway.
him a top 5 pick.
And they
Yeah, well, he came out-
got it wrong.
He came out in the same class as Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Scott, you know I was all over Josh Allen and said the rest of those quarterbacks will bust. You remember me saying that.
Right.
And I'm not surprised.
Well, let me get to my main points. I know that the defenses under Shane Bowen were excellent, But the thing that was surprising to me when I was looking at the statistical data is where the Titans ranked in pass defense. And they were 31st in the league in 22 and 23. And in 22, they gave up 29 touchdowns, and in 23, they gave up 20. And obviously personnel changed, so that was different. But they also gave up in both years about 7 yards. So in 23, it was sort of a bend, don't break type of defense. And the thing that is concerning to me is how the Giants and Shane Bowen are going to play against a guy like Justin Jefferson. Will they rely more on their safeties as opposed to their cornerbacks to try to obviously limit the amount of yardage that is given up? Because that was the only statistic under Shane Bowen that I was concerned about. Their defenses, I think they only gave up 21 points.
Scott, the one problem with doing that is you don't know the game flow. And game flow has an awful lot to do with the bottom line of stats when they finally come in at the end of the game or at the end of the year. And if you don't understand the way the game flow was, that's why like a pitcher with a 4.5 ERA can win 20 games.
Correct.
Because it's the way game flow goes. So I don't really like to pay much attention to those bottom line stats in a vacuum as you were just discussing.
Okay. I was just concerned because, again, the amount of yardage they gave up was 7 yards per pass attempt, and that's a lot for any defense. So that was my main concern of how they're going to handle that. One last point, and then I'll be glad to take it off the air. I understand that Carter Coughlin was cut yesterday.
Back on the practice squad today.
Oh, he's back on the practice squad today. Do you know who is going to be able to take his place on the roster in regards to both special teams and if they're going to use somebody at his linebacker position? And I'll take your answers off the air, guys. Thanks.
All right.
Well, his spot on the 53-man roster, Coach Dable said they are going to figure it out. It has not been filled yet. So technically right now there are 52 players on the active roster. It wouldn't surprise me if Carter Coughlin is elevated on game day now that he's back on the practice squad. The Giants have the option to do that. And so if that's the case, obviously he will be right back out there on all the different kickoff coverage, punt coverage, special teams units that we normally see him on.
And he doesn't have to be on the 53. He could be a practice squad elevation.
Yeah,
they don't have to bring him up to the 53. He can just be a game day elevation.
Yeah, as Coach Dable said to the media right before we came on air, this is the time of year where teams around the NFL and the Giants as well just are doing a lot of roster gymnastics. You know, you're gonna see guys going up and down probably for the next couple of weeks. You know, just because a guy gets cut, as we saw yesterday with Carter Coughlin, doesn't mean he's actually gone. I feel like Jakob Johnson, who was the guy that got released from the practice squad to make room for Carter Coughlin, because you're only allowed to have 6 veterans on the practice squad, I feel like he could be back pretty soon, just based on how many times he's been cut and released and signed to the practice squad and then signed to the active roster in the last week and a half alone. So
he's the human yo-yo.
Seriously. So right now, as Dable said, it's just a lot of roster gymnastics going on.
Yes.
Just because you see a guy get cut today doesn't mean he won't be back tomorrow.
Excellent warning, Matt. We go to line 2. Ron from New Jersey. You're next on the program. Hello.
Hey guys.
What's
nice
up?
to be on the show. Nice call out on the irony there, Matt. So, Paul,
Thank you.
I ran into Frank Scandell, who passes along his good wishes.
Oh, thank you so
hello.
much.
Yeah, and said to please be sure to thank him again for getting that paper down on the field.
It was my pleasure.
I thought you'd want to know that. I have a question, but quick snarky comment. As I watched the game last night, very entertaining, a lot of silly mistakes, and I couldn't help think to myself, if only there was a mechanism where these starters could actually practice in a game before the season started. So, I'm glad you appreciate that.
Yes, I do. More than you know.
Okay. So I'm excited for the season. Try and look positive, and I need your help a little bit on this. And here's my question. And I'll be there tomorrow in the newly minted Miller Lite Club. But I'm trying to talk myself into that we're a playoff team.
Tomorrow?
Even if we.
You mean you're going to the game on Sunday?
Sunday.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. If you're doing a 5K in the Miller Lite Club, you're going to run into the wall at least 5 or 6 times.
Good one there. No. So as I look at, the national media, they're killing the Giants. So the way I'm trying to convince myself is to look at the 22 team, which no one expected to go to the playoffs, and the team today.
Yeah.
I know about the receiver room, and I know we have more talent in it. My question to you guys is, up and down the roster, where do you think we stand? What kind of delta is it between 22 and 24? And, try and convince me, please. I will take it off the air. Thank you, guys. Maybe I'll bump into you on Sunday.
Thanks, Ron.
All right. Have a great day.
You want to start or should I?
You can.
I think without a doubt that this roster in 2024 is just so much better than it was in 2022. I think this is now year 3 of Joe Shane serving as the general manager. This is his team now. This is his roster of guys that he brought in. I believe every single player that's now on the roster, maybe everyone besides, I believe it was Azeez Ojulari, actually. Every other player on this roster has either been signed, drafted, or re-signed by Joe Shane since he took over out of the 53 players. So this is his team now. And if you look up and down the roster, I think almost every position is better now than it was 2 years ago.
Except the secondary.
Yeah, not every position.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you add pieces to one area, and costly ones at that, you're gonna have to take it away from something else.
Running back and secondary, the only two spots.
For sure.
That's it.
There's no doubt Saquon Barkley is a top back in the NFL. He's no longer here. But Devin Singletary is a very solid replacement, I believe at least, for Saquon Barkley. The secondary, I mean, honestly, from 2 years ago, what's that different other than Xavier McKinney?
Well, Julian Love. And Adoree Jackson and Fabian Moreau.
Adoree Jackson's back.
So Jackson, McKinney, Love, and Moreau. That was your 4 starters.
You have Deonte Banks, who was a first-round pick last year. And obviously, Xavier McKinney is a great safety, but the Giants just drafted Tyler Nubin in the 2nd round. And I'm not saying he's going to immediately come in and replace Xavier McKinney because McKinney was great last year. But there's a reason they spent a 2nd-round pick and were so high on Tyler Nubin going into the draft.
2 words to keep in mind. And I agree with you in terms of potential. This secondary has a lot of talent. They just haven't proven it enough yet. That secondary was more proven.
Yes, of course.
And that's the difference. Now, is the upside of this secondary potentially better? Over the course of time, it may be. But right now, that secondary was better.
I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you. But as we said, when you add to one area of the roster, you're going to have, especially in like free agency or a trade, you're going to have to sort of take away that money from another area. So while the secondary, as you said, might be not as proven, I think the offensive line is miles better than it was 2 years ago.
So the linebackers.
The linebackers as well. I would say the defensive line as a whole, your front 4 pass rush at least.
Much better.
That is better. Of course, that year, the team 2 years ago, you had Dexter and Leo next to each other. And right now, there is not a player next to Dexter that is quite the same level as Leonard Williams.
That's for sure.
But you have Brian Birds, who is miles better than any edge rusher on that team 2 years ago. And then Kayvon Thibodeau, who was a rookie 2 years ago, now going into year 3, coming off an 11.5 sack season.
Absolutely.
So,
Okereke against Jalen Smith in the middle. What do you think?
Exactly. And, I mean, the wide receiver position might be the most obvious outside of the offensive line, the most obvious improvement between Malik Neighbors, a healthy Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, and then the one constant has been Darius Slayton, who's Mr. Consistent in that wide receiver room. So
well, there's your answer.
So, yeah, the talent is definitely
better.
The talent compared to 2022. I feel like you can barely even compare it. It's drastically different. That offseason going into the 2022 season, Joe Shane has spoken about this. They didn't really have any cap space to work with. I think their big offseason signing that year was Mark Lewinsky, and then Tyrod Taylor is the backup quarterback.
Well, think of the fact that Fabian Moreau basically came in off the street and wound up having to start the whole season. Now, he played well. He played at a solid veteran level, enough that the Giants were able to get into the playoffs and win a playoff game. I don't want to besmirch him, but to be honest, if you look at Fabian Moreau, we knew what he was when he got here. He actually had been picked up off the scrap heap and they resuscitated his career. And I give Jerome Henderson a tremendous amount of credit for that.
Oh, yeah. One of the best defensive back coaches in the NFL.
Outstanding, and that says a lot about him, maybe even more about him than it does Moreau himself. And so, Fabian Moreau, look, I don't want to besmirch him, but he was a reclamation project. The Giants, they're not looking at reclamation projects here. They think Flott can be really good. He's just having trouble staying on the field. That's his biggest problem, is staying on the field. It's not that he can't play.
And they brought back Adoree Jackson, as we've spoken about. And, I don't think he's going to start on Sunday, but who knows down the road, once he gets into football shape and if he starts playing well, he could find himself back in the starting lineup.
Oh, if he plays well, he will.
Yeah. And then, at least when you look at the cornerbacks then with this year compared to 2022, then you start seeing a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Fabian Moreau, Adoree Jackson, kind of similar arrivals back, to the Giants, at least, Adoree for this season. Obviously, Adoree Jackson 2 years ago was more experienced than Deonte Banks is this year, but Deonte Banks was a first-round pick who last year went up against the number one receiver just about every single week. And for the most part, held his own. He had his ups and downs, but had a solid rookie year.
Rookie growing pains. They all go through it.
Of course.
With few exceptions, like Sauce Gardner.
And the Giants are incredibly high on Drew Phillips, their rookie third-round pick, who is slotted in to be the starting nickel corner, flashed throughout the preseason, throughout training camp.
A little banged up right now.
He's not on the injury report.
He's been slowed at practice, though. A little bit.
Point being, as you mentioned when we first started talking about the secondary, there are a lot of talented pieces there, a lot unproven, guys that, definitely need to take the next step or, for the two rookies in the secondary, establish themselves and have solid rookie seasons. But the pieces are there. They just need to come together. And
one word, upside. Upside. That's all you need to know.
There's a ton of upside. I mean, we haven't even touched on really the three safeties that.
No.
Jason Pinnock will likely be on the field most of the snaps, but the other two could be rotating in. And we've seen Tyler Newman and Dave Belton both make so many plays, whether it's this summer or Belton over the last 2 years. So the potential is definitely there. And this young secondary is going to benefit greatly from the Giants' pass rush.
Absolutely.
Because quarterbacks are not going to have as much time as they have the last couple of years to sit in the pocket and wait for routes to develop. Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence are going to get into quarterbacks' faces. They're going to make them scramble, hurry up, throw the ball, get the ball out quickly.
Don't forget Isaiah Simmons now. He's got blitz capabilities too.
I only didn't bring Isaiah Simmons up because I honestly don't even know where he's going to be lining up on the defense.
But he's got blitz capabilities.
For sure.
And he wasn't there in 22.
That is for sure. He's going to be out there. I don't know exactly where out there, but he will be out there more often than not.
All right. Coach Marvin is on line 3. You're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello, Coach.
How you doing, Paul, Matt?
All right.
Doing?
Hey, Coach.
Hey, I was listening to you guys talk about the roster, comparing it to 22. I don't really want to get into that because they're all different teams, and they always say that. What happened last year, 2 years, or 3 years ago, they're different teams. It's a different roster. We may have improved. I don't know until we start playing, but the problem with that I have to look at is most of the teams in the NFL have improved.
They hope so.
Philly has improved. Washington has improved. You watch Kansas City; they looked different last night. So a lot of teams have improved. So how well is that going to turn into wins? I don't know.
Coach, I want to give you one stat though before you go on. Last year's team to this year's team, from the time the season ended till now, the Giants have overturned 34% of their 53-man active roster. That's a large number. And they also overturned 12 of the 17 practice squad guys. Remember, they get the international kicker as the 17th guy. So if you want to say 12 out of 16, they also overturned, which means that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane were not just chalking up last year's scuffling to injuries. They won 6 games with an injury-filled roster, and they weren't going to use that as an excuse. They said, We've got to make this team better. And the proof is in the pudding with the number of guys that they imported this year. They changed 34% of the active roster. That's a big number.
Right. I mean, as bad as they started the season, I thought they did a pretty good job to rebound. The team was still playing. They played Philly, who was a playoff team. They didn't play as well down the stretch, but they were a 10-1 team at one time, and they ended up beating them last year. So they never gave up on the team, and the team never gave up on the staff.
Yep.
I find that kind of crazy to say Brian Daboll's on the chopping block and what can happen to Joe Shane. You got to let them
don't listen to that, Marvin. Don't listen to that stuff.
I don't believe me, Paul. I don't listen to it, and it doesn't really get to me. I'm just trying to preach to the ones that are saying it. That you gotta give them their chance to get their people in and build what they have. I was listening to the guy talking about Terry Bradshaw, and that was a different time. And Dan Orlovsky said something that was very interesting a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about Daniel Jones. But with Terry Bradshaw, back in those days, there was no free agency, not a lot of trading going on. So that wasn't going to happen. The same thing with Phil Simms. And I think a lot of that has to do with what Dan Orlovsky said about Daniel. He likes Daniel. Again, Paul, you know, I support the Giants. I do I believe in them. They plan. But if you can't take criticism sometimes, you can't grow. And that's what I used to tell my players. If you can't take criticism, I can't teach you anything.
Right.
And you have to be able to take that sometimes. And I'm sure Daniel is taking it because he has no choice to take it. But Dan was saying the problem with Daniel and the people that watches him, he doesn't have enough upside for the problems that he's caused as far as his turnovers, bad mistakes, mental mistakes. And he has some good plays in the years he's played here, but there are not enough of them to give him credit. And that's what Eli would go through. Eli, he could have a game with 4 interceptions, but you never lose your belief in him because you've seen his upside often enough to override whatever he does wrong. So you're able to be mad at him, but it's not going to last long because it was Eli. You knew what he was going to do. Next week, he's coming back. And that's the part Daniel has to get to that point. And playing quarterback in the NFL or any league, you're going to have to deal with them criticism. You have to because we rely on you so much. And whatever happens out there, for me, I'm putting it on him. Because he's me out there, and his decision-making is part of me. So whatever he does wrong, the parents came back to me. So I'm going to be a little hard on him. And I think that's what's happening. Daniel he's going to have to rise up. We can't give excuses anymore.
Absolutely.
You got to look at it and say, are you looking at this guy and say, okay, we're going to give him 4 more years at $60 million or $55 million? You got to make that decision. And then you got to look at it and say, okay, yes, how many coaches he's had. That's not his fault, but it's part of what's building into him. He had 3 coaches. So how many times those coaches, we got them now. Are that coach going to be thinking, you know what, 2 guys got fired because of this. If I'm going to go down, I may have to go down with my own guy that I want.
Coach Marvin, it comes down to this. In all honesty, it comes down to this, and I've said it on the show before and every other place where I've been a guest around the country. It's very simple. Daniel Jones has now reached a fork in the road. It's that simple. There are no excuses, no reasons, no nothing. Either Daniel Jones plays at a level that you can see with your eyes and say, hey, this guy's okay. You can win games with him. He's good enough. And he deserves to be back here in 2025. Or he's not going to be good enough. And why? It won't matter. In this particular instance, 6 years in the league, with his contract status the way it is, there will not be any good enough reason. If he does not play well, you can't talk about the receivers not being good enough. You can't talk about the line not being good enough anymore. Right. And if he gets hurt, you know what? That's not good enough either. This is it.
Right.
This is it. It's time to take the right fork in the road for Daniel Jones. Either he turns out to be a Hostetler or a Kerry Collins and he stays, or he turns out to be, and I used the other name the other day, but maybe I'll give you Craig Morton or Joe Pizarczyk or Randy Dean, or, pick some of the other guys who just did not work out very well with the Giants. This is the fork in the road. It's time.
And that's how people have to see it, exactly what you just said, Paul. Even if you don't like him, you're going to have to support him because he's wearing the uniform. You also got to remember he's the guy for 2024, not just looking for 2025, because there was nothing in the draft other than the front end of that draft that they want. Anything at the back end after picking what they picked, 6?
Yeah.
After picking that, there was nothing that they wanted that was worth getting rid of Daniel Jones for. So I was fine with the pick because I said, you know what? I don't want to make any more mistakes with the quarterback. Pick the guy you want. And he wasn't there, and they stuck with Daniel. So that's what we got, and that's what we're going to have to deal with, and just hope that the guy can play. It's going to be a tough season still because this team is growing. They're not a team that you can say, I'm not mentioning playoff. If it happens, it happens. You're going to have to take this 1 week at a time. I hear people saying, 9 wins, 12 wins. See, that's how we come crashing down. We're on the 15th floor, and when the building comes down, you're crashing and burning. I'm keeping my feet on the first floor, and I work my way up as I go up. My last statement is...
Real quick, Coach, because we got to run.
Yeah, this is only a second. You watched the game last night. You noticed that the referees are calling these tackles for being behind the line of scrimmage this year. Mm-hmm. That is going to be interesting with these defensive ends and these edge rushers because those tackles are not going to be able to get back a lot quicker than they normally do.
Very true.
You guys have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, Coach. Enjoy the game.
Thanks,
Go
Coach
ahead.
Marvin.
You want to say something?
No.
Oh, I thought you were preparing something to tell me.
No, I was going to bring something up that we've spoken about many times since the end of last season, but just about the start of Eli's career and how. All right, real quick, Giants fans, we all love Eli Manning. I think that's safe to say. But let's not pretend like the first couple of years of his career, so many Giants fans out there weren't turning on him with how his career started. And even the Super Bowl year in 2007, he led the league with 20 interceptions. Mm-hmm. And before that playoff run started, so many people were saying about how Eli had to go and they needed to replace him, and then he leads them to a Super Bowl. I'm clearly not saying that that's going to happen with Daniel Jones here, but obviously the way everyone thinks about Eli Manning now is not the same as the first 4 years of his career.
Hindsight, man.
So
it's always 2020. You know that. Hindsight. Everybody loves hindsight.
So I agree with what you and Coach Marvin said. This is a very big year for Daniel Jones. No one is arguing that. Joe Shane has basically explicitly said that himself. No one's denying that. But as Coach Marvin said, Daniel Jones is the quarterback for 2024. It's time to get behind him and see what he can do. All the bashing every day of Daniel Jones, and I say it every day, I don't get it. He is the starting quarterback for our team. Unless you want the Giants to tank this entire season, it's time to root for him and get behind him.
I hear you. The Giants Huddle podcast has all kinds of interviews with Giants and NFL luminaries. Bottom line, folks, we're going to be filling up that archive, and we're going to spread things out all during the course of the season with tonight's interviews. Again, we're going to have a whole ton of guys from the top 100. We're going to spread them out during the course of the season. So hopefully during the year, you're really going to be able to enjoy some nostalgia with Giants football. It's available on your favorite podcast platform, or go to giants.com/podcasts. And then also, we do want to tell you, even though Game 1 is on Sunday, there are still some season tickets available. And if you'd like to inquire about a season ticket membership, go to giants.com/tickets. All kinds of exclusive membership kinds of perks do come with that if you're able to subscribe. Also, the Giants TV is the connected streaming app. Has all kinds of original content, video highlights and stuff. It's free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. We go back to the lines. Jeff, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, Paulie. Hey, Matt. How you doing today?
All good. How are you?
Jeff?
That's good. Doing okay. I'm happy to say that the powers that be at Fox decided they were going to televise the game in Rhode Island this weekend instead of watching Atlanta and somebody else. So
Good for you.
I guess who on earth would think that Atlanta Falcons have a following in southern New England? I don't know.
Especially when they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm not sure that I get that.
Yeah, I don't get it either, man. I was really baffled by that. But anyway, I wanted to call and, I wanted to give my prediction about wins and losses. I don't see any reason why the Giants can't win 9 to 10 games this year, providing that they stay relatively healthy. That's what I'm thinking, and we're due. I want to see it happen. I want to win a season above everything else. So a winning season. I have no great expectations of going to the Super Bowl or anything like that, but I do want to see a winning season. So let's all hope that that can happen. That's about all I got for you today, guys.
All right, Jeff, thanks for the call.
Have a good afternoon.
You too. Enjoy the game. I'm glad you're going to get a chance to see it. And by the way, I know during the preseason, you were on top of the fact that the app had the preseason games. That's not the case anymore during the regular season.
No, the games are no longer streaming on the Giants app. If you want to stream the game, your only option that I'm aware of is if you download and pay for NFL Plus, then you can stream the games. But yeah, otherwise you gotta tune into Fox.
Radio will be on WFAN, and of course, I believe we do stream the audio. Do we not on the Giants website, or is that no longer the case, or do we just link to WFAN's link?
I think we just link. Let me check.
So if you are able to do that, that's a way to also follow the game. In any event, we'll have a pregame show, obviously, from the press box going into the game. Giants-Vikings kick it off. Halftime be a great ceremony. And then, of course, post-game show following where we'll be able to take your phone calls. And also post-game show on MSG, Giants post-game live, scheduled for around 4 o'clock. As soon as the game is over, you click over to the TV, go to MSG, and you'll get 1 hour of Giants post-game coverage, locker room interviews, feature interviews on the field, et cetera, et cetera.
So all I see for the radio is that the game will be on WFAN 101.9 because
the Yankees are on 66.
The Yankees are on 660, and I don't believe the radio broadcast will be streamed. No,
okay.
I don't believe so.
All right. Well, we got another couple of minutes. If somebody wants to come in with a real quick one, we'll sneak in at the bottom here. 201-939-4513. All right. I don't know, but I think this crowd's going to be electric on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
The Giants are 1-6 in their last home openers. Last seven home openers. They are 1-6. They have not done a good job getting out of the gate. And consequently, I think that does sometimes mute some of the anticipation and some of the buzz. But I think because of the 100th season, I think that's going to overcome any malaise that people have been used to from this team on opening day, and I think they're going to rock this place.
Yeah, I really think the fans are going to be electric on Sunday. I'm expecting a great atmosphere, and hopefully the Giants come out right away and match the crowd's energy, because the best way to keep the crowd going and loud and cheering all game is to perform on the field.
Well,
play well.
They've got the ability to make big plays on defense because this front seven can get after Darnold. And on offense, with this receiving core, I believe that Daniel Jones, with Brian Daboll's playbook, is going to hit some big plays offensively too. And against a high-risk, high-reward defense of Brian Flores, the DC with the Vikings, there will be chances to make plays.
Definitely.
They just got to make them.
For sure. And I will tell you now for Giants fans, because we've seen the criticism of these over the last few months, the Century Red uniforms, which the Giants will be wearing on Sunday, they're going to look a lot better than you might have thought from those photos you've seen online and stuff. Wait till you see the players actually wearing them. I think opinions will change.
Real quick, Elliot is in Puerto Rico. You're going to be the last caller on the show. We're glad you decided to ring us up.
Hi, Paul. Hi, Matt. How are you?
Hey, Elliot.
Hi.
Oh, I'm calling, Paul. Don't get jealous. I'm calling because Matt is in the program, and I explained why. He was, I think it was like a week ago on the show, talking about the pain of the fans and how the fans should be on the bandwagon with DJ and stop, like criticize him and putting him down. And I know about pain, Matt, because I'm also a Mets fan.
Oh, me too.
That's not pain, man. That is torture. Look, come over to the right side. Get to the Bronx. You'll be much better off.
No. You can come to the dark side any day if you want to, but that fandom is not gonna change anytime soon. So I'm a Knicks fan too, and I know that Paul is a huge Knicks fan, so he knows about pain too.
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
but the Knicks are back, my man. The Knicks are back.
Oh yeah. I can't wait for the new season to start. And the Matt was going in a small rant on the show, talking about how we as Mets fans are supposed to be with our team. It doesn't matter, and I'm a huge fan of the Mets since the same time that I'm being a fan of the Giants since 1984. So I just saw them winning in '86, and that's it. I have never seen the Knicks won because they won in '73, and I was in my diapers. So I don't know about that one.
I got you.
But maybe soon we can repeat the history again. The closest I've been with the Knicks was in 1994 against Houston on the 7th game.
Yes,
and we lost by 5.
Yes,
so,
I understand. I understand.
So I'm just really, really, really tired of some fans that they just want to be. They want the team to do bad so they can say, "Oh, I told you so." So if you're not with DJ and you're not with the team as a whole, so sorry guys, but you're a fake fan. I'm get excited every season. It doesn't matter if the team, I think they did well or not in free agency and the draft and everything that they do in the off season, because it's my team. I love the team. So.
Elliot, we appreciate your phone call. Are you really calling us from Puerto Rico?
Yes. No. I'm in New York now because I'm on vacation. But, Paul, I hope I see you tonight. I'm going to the Fan Fest.
Excellent. Have a great time. We're going to be there as well, and hopefully everybody has a bash. And then they have another bash on Sunday against the Vikings. Be well, Elliot. Thank you.
Originally, I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm still living in Puerto Rico. I have family here in New York. So this is my vacation, and I cannot be on the game on Sunday because I'm coming back to Puerto Rico, but I'm going to be on FanFest tonight.
All right. Good stuff. Enjoy. Safe travels.
Thank you, Elliot.
Take care, my friends.
All right. Any final words about FanFest before we get out of here and get across the parking lot?
No, I'm just excited to get these 100th season festivities underway. It's going to be a big weekend, hopefully culminating in a big victory on Sunday.
That would be absolutely fantastic as Big Blue continues their quest to get back into the playoffs. For Matt Sytek, I'm Paul Dottino. This has been Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. We'll see you again next time.